Hello, my name is Anthony Cerezo. Today I will present my topic about the Los Angeles Riots in 1992. And then for the introduction, the Los Angeles Riots was one night. An African man named Ryan King was being chased by officer LAPD, and then because for speeding or for robbery basically, but then officers pulled him over for because he had a warrant for robbing, and then when they pulled him over, the police told him to get out the car because he had a warrant, and then after that they started beating him up. The officers started beating him up, and then 3 more officers came in, started joining him, beating him with the baton on him, beating him for like at least 12 minutes. Not until like a couple more officers started looking at him, making jokes or commentating on him. Not until a couple from the house saw it and started recording the video on him beating Mr. King for at least 20 to 30 minutes. After that, Mr. King fractured basically like a bone in his head and like legs, fractured bones in his legs and his arm. And then after that, it took a whole year to make a court. When that day happened, all 4 officers were all the juries were like, there were a couple whites, couple Mexican, and then 1 Asian. And then after the plea deal, the judge said that 4 officers were not guilty of the assault of Mr. King. And that's when the whole world shocked the world, basically, mostly to like African American people, that a video that they showed to the people was basically pointless to the officers or to the judge. And so after that, they wanted to have another trial again, but that was gonna take for a while. And that's when the whole, like that same day at night, they started to protest about the case. And then after that, like the whole night, that was started to turn into a protest, into a full-blown riot. And then it took like at least 7 days or a week to end the riots. Not until the president started sending the military to end the riots, basically losing like over billions of dollars in LA, and at least 1,000 to 5,000 people died during the riots, mostly looting, killing each other, and that's all. And then for the 4 officers, they were named Stacy, Timothy, Lawrence, Ted, and were the 4 officers that pulled Mr. King and started beating him with the baton. But the thing is, back in the 80s and 90s, the rule was you can aggressively hit people that you pull over. So basically, they're allowed to like brutally beat them up, hit them assaultly, aggressively. And that was based, and they were using the total words mostly to the colors, both mostly African people. And so and so that was like 80s through I think the 2000 when they had that rule. And then when they went to court, they were basically innocent because they weren't like, because it was like the lack of juries they had. It was like mostly white people, 1 Mexican, 1 Asian, and so they didn't have at least like 1 African person to defend to be a jury on that. So it was like the lack of juries in the case that handled it too. And then the LA riots mostly affect the race of mostly African, Latinos, and the Koreans, because all of them were like, basically the African and the Latinos were making the riots, like burning down innocent houses, buildings, stores, robbing cars, and like destroying people's vehicles, police, truckers. And then when and then they started looting more into the Korean town they had in Los Angeles, mostly Korean people, and that's when the Korean people started to realize that keep their looting their products, their supplies they had. So basically, the Koreans had to protect themselves with their guns. To use guns to protect from the looter. And so if a looter comes in to rob them, the Korean has to scare them off or have to shoot them. There was no other option because the police won't help the Koreans or wouldn't help nobody during the riots because they were too scared or like run away basically. So there was no help at that point. So it was for every person, every resident in LA for themselves to survive and avoid the death. And so how the riots impacted America basically, because that was like shocking to them because they thought like the racism was over like back in the 60s and the 50s, and then but it was still continuing on. And then the mayor was upset, mad, anger how this case wasn't handled properly, and so it will basically like affect people, like the juries, the people take the case like more colored people instead of like whites, to handle the like these type of case like Ron King, and so it won't like avoid like another riot or like bad anything. And then but like at the end of the day, there'll still be like police often killing like colored people, like the innocent for no reason, and then making another riot across the whole US basically again. And then that's it today. Basically we just discussed what happened on the LA riots. Yeah, that's it.